Worst contracts in the NFL.
Recently, the biggest story in the NFL has been the refusal of teams to pay their running backs. Despite some of the most talented backs in the league being capable of carrying an offense on their own, a handful of the top players at the position have struggled to find a contract that they feel is worth what they bring to the team. While teams have tightened the leash on their spending at the running back position, they have done nothing to stop overpaying certain other positions. Today, we will break down some of the worst contracts in the league and the overpaid players attached to the deals. When the first player on the list signed his enormous contract extension, many believed that the deal was team-friendly. However, after just 1 year into the contract, the tide has turned. 1. Russell Wilson.
With the 75th pick in the 2012 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Russell Wilson, quarterback, Wisconsin.
Russell Wilson was the 75th overall pick of the 2012 NFL Draft by the Seattle Seahawks. Through the first 11 years in his career, Wilson has spent time playing for the Seahawks and Denver Broncos. Thus far, he has been named to the Pro Bowl 9 times, won 1 Super Bowl in 2013, and won the 2020 Walter Payton Man of the Year award. After spending the first decade of his career in Seattle, it was clear that it was time for the Seahawks to move on from their franchise quarterback and Wilson to push for 1 more Super Bowl on a new team. He would be the focal point of a blockbuster trade that landed the Broncos Wilson and the pick that would become Ioma Uwazurike. In return, the Seahawks would receive Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, and the picks that would become Charles Cross, Devin Witherspoon, Boy Mafe, Derek Hall, and Tyreek Smith. Along with giving up a massive haul to land Wilson, Denver would also give him a massive contract extension. The deal will hypothetically keep him on the team through the 2028 season and make the veteran quarterback $245 million with $165 million guaranteed. While many believed that this was a steal for the Broncos at the time and would set them up to be Super Bowl contenders in the 2022 season, they could not be further from the truth. Wilson would lead the Broncos to a 4-11 record while having one of the ugliest seasons of his career through the air. He would finish the season with 3,524 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions while completing 60.5% of his passes. This would be career lows for Wilson in both completion percentage and touchdowns. With a new coaching staff in Denver, this could potentially be a last-ditch effort for Wilson to have a successful stint with the Broncos. However, if he once again struggles through the 2023 season, it would be a nightmare for Denver. With Wilson signed to the team through the 2028 season and a good chunk of the contract being guaranteed, their hands would be tied. It would not be worth cutting him from the roster as he is already set to eat up a solid percentage of the team's cap space. However, if he has another rough season, they also will be hard-pressed to find any potential suitors on the trade market. As Wilson continues to age, this is a contract that likely will continue to look worse and worse each season unless he can have a massive turnaround through the air. Up next is a well-known veteran that made his return to the NFL on a massive 1-year deal. 2. Odell Beckham Jr.
12th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Odell Beckham.
Odell Beckham Jr. was the 12th overall pick of the 2014 NFL Draft by the New York Giants. Through his 8 years in the league, Beckham Jr. has played for the Giants, Cleveland Browns, and Los Angeles Rams. While most of his success came in his first few years in the NFL before injuries would take a major toll on his career, he has still made 3 appearances in the Pro Bowl, won 1 Super Bowl, the 2014 Offensive Rookie of the Year award, and the 2014 Overall Rookie of the Year award. Beckham Jr. will suit up for a new team in the 2023 season after signing a 1-year $15 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. If the veteran wide receiver is able to reach all of his contract incentives, the deal could end up costing Baltimore $18 million. While he still looked like an elite option in the last game that he played in, Odell would be forced to sit out the entirety of the 2022 season due to the ACL injury that he suffered. This would be the second time in his career that he would go through a massive injury to his ACL. This is oftentimes an injury that players at the wide receiver position do not come back the same from. Despite Beckham Jr. losing a step after his first ACL injury, he would still prove to be a very reliable option for the Rams. However, he will be forced to play a much bigger role during his time with the Ravens. Despite Baltimore using their first-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft to select wideout Zay Flowers, there is a chance that Odell could still end up being Lamar Jackson's #1 target this upcoming season. Although he has proven himself as an elite option in the past, the decision to bring him in on such a lucrative deal could end up blowing up in Baltimore's face. The move was likely made in an act of desperation, as the signing came shortly after Jackson made his request for a trade public. With him and Beckham Jr. already having a solid relationship off of the field, the Ravens did whatever they could to add him to their roster in hopes of keeping Lamar on the team. While this would end up proving to be successful, giving Beckham Jr. a $15 million deal not including incentives greatly limited the pieces that they could have added to their offense. With Beckham Jr. already having an extensive injury history, being forced to miss the entirety of the 2022 season, and not having a great track record as a #1 receiver since his time with the Giants, this could end up proving to be a terrible deal for the Ravens. The final terrible contract on the list came from another act of desperation and would end up making the signing team one of the most hated in the NFL. 3. Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was the 12th overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft by the Houston Texans. Through his 5 seasons in the league, he has spent time playing for the Texans and Cleveland Browns. Up to this point in his career, Watson has made 3 appearances in the Pro Bowl. Over the past 2 years, he is easily one of the most widely hated players in recent NFL history. He was alleged of some truly awful things off of the field. Around the time of these allegations being brought to the forefront, Watson would demand a trade from the Texans. All signs pointed to him being dealt to the Atlanta Falcons. However, the Browns would make a last-minute move out of desperation that could end up being the worst contract in the NFL and setting the franchise back years. Along with signing Watson to a huge contract extension, the Browns also sent a 2022 first-round pick, a 2023 first-round pick, a 2024 first-round pick, a 2023 third-round pick, and a 2024 fourth-round pick for Watson, and a 2024 fifth-round pick. The contract extension is set to keep him on the team through the 2026 season. Watson would make $230 million off of the deal and historically became the first player in the NFL to have a contract of that size fully guaranteed. At the time, many believed that this would begin a trend of quarterbacks, if not all NFL players, receiving fully guaranteed deals. However, as we now know, this would be a one-off and leave the Browns looking silly for making a move like this. At the time of the signing, an unnamed NFL agent was quoted as saying, "Disgusting. Complete 100% franchise malpractice. Sends the wrong message." For the Houston Texans to dump him as quickly as they did and to settle the lawsuits as quickly as they did says a lot about him. It says a tremendous amount about the Cleveland Browns organization. To get a guy they think can help win games, where winning games is the priority over sending a message to women and sending a message to other athletes that behavior like that will be tolerated. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and signing Watson is as desperate as anything I've ever seen in the history of professional sports in this country. To make matters worse for the Browns, after Watson would return from his 11-game suspension, he would look far from the elite quarterback that he was during his time with Houston. He finished his shortened season throwing for 1,102 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions while completing only 58.2% of his passes. If he does not have a major bounce-back season in 2023, this could end up being arguably the worst move in the history of the Cleveland Browns.